Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of the Beyond Access series. We're so happy to be here with you all. But before we get today's episode started, I want to take a moment of silence and in pause and hold space for the events that happened today in Brooklyn. I know that many of us have been affected by it and have experienced trauma to it. So I want to just take a moment to take a breath and be in silence and send some good thoughts to all of those who have been impacted. Thank you, everyone. So tonight is a special session of the Beyond Access series because it's just us today. It's just the folks from the Division of Specialized Instruction and Student Support. And I'm going to be your presenter today. So for those of you who I have not had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Jose Rios, and I host the Beyond Access series. With me are two amazing team members in the background, Kimberly Ramones, who is our Senior Executive Director of Instruction and Compliance, who has been a supporter of the series since day one, and Ori Balaish, who is our Family Empowerment Coordinator, who works on all of the logistics to make this happen. Oh, look, there's Kim. Hi, Kim. Before we get started and we talk into our topic today, which is about getting help and support, Ori is going to give us some housekeeping announcements.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you for the introduction. Of course, welcome everyone. So just as usual, before we get started, I just want to give the general reminders here. Now, obviously, as you guys know, this session is being recorded, so don't worry if you're missing some parts, you don't get the whole thing. We will be posting it on our YouTube page tomorrow, as always, and we'll send out an email as well when it is posted and it's recording. If you don't follow our YouTube page, please go and subscribe. We have obviously great videos on content that we've done before on special education, and obviously we'll be posting as we go along with Beyond Access series. Also, as per usual, there is no chat function enabled for today's session, but we do have the Q&A function that is open throughout. You can ask your questions as Jose is presenting. We will try to answer as much as we can throughout the presentation, but we do set time ahead of time at the end of the presentation to make sure that we can go and answer as many questions as we can. Now, very exciting, as we were talking about, but for tonight it is just us. And Jose will be presenting a very special edition here called Getting Help, Accessing Support and Resources for Families of Children with IEPs. So this webinar will be able to help you, teach you on how to access resources through the Department of Education, including our website, email inboxes, access the hotline, and much more. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it back over to Jose here.
Thanks so much, Ori. So tonight's presentation is special because I need to share some information with you all. Most of you are avid followers of the Beyond Access series, and some of you may already know this, but I will be leaving my position with the New York City Department of Education this Friday. This will be my last day. It has been an honor and a pleasure to work on behalf of families of children with disabilities for the past 5 years. And this particular session is extra special because it's my last session as the Director of Family Empowerment and Communications. And I thought that really, what is the best thing I could leave behind as a session would be about getting help and support and empowering all of you all to know those systems. Some of you on here are experts already, and this might be a little bit of a refresher. Some of you might be new to the system. So just pay attention. There'll be some nice surprises along the way, I think. I have some good news, though, to share. Even though I am leaving my role with the Department of Education, I am excited to announce that I'm going to continue to host the Beyond Access series. So this is not a goodbye, where you'll still see me every Tuesday evening, along with Ori, and we're going to continue to do the work. So I want to share with you all that there's that shift happening. I want to stand in that space, but also acknowledge that uh, while we find someone to take on the work, I'm going to continue doing this family work for on behalf of the division, um, and keep this initiative moving forward. So I want to thank everyone on here who has been an avid follower and has been joining us every week and has been looking at the recordings and sharing the links, because the reason this initiative is so successful is because of all of you. So I want to hold that space there. I know that some folks might be having emotions about this and feelings about this. Feel free to use the Q&A to drop in whatever you're feeling. We take a look at that. I download them at the end, and I memorialize all of them. But as Ori was saying, today's session is about getting support. And so I'm going to start us off with some basics around special education in New York City. All right, can folks see my screen? Ori, help me out.
Yes, we can see it.
Great. All right, let's get started. So I'm going to start off with a video with all of you. This video is on our YouTube page, and it's available in all 10 languages. I'm going to play it in English for you all right now. And this is a video on what is special education.
When a child is struggling in the classroom, supports and intervention can lead to special education. But what is special education? As a parent, the term can be scary and carry stigma. People often think of special education as a place where children are put, but all special education refers to is a set of services, programs, and instruction designed to promote personal and academic growth for students with disabilities. This is done through the creation of an individualized education program, or an IEP, for eligible students. However, an IEP is not the answer for everyone. Schools have many supports for students without IEPs in general education settings. These supports can include adaptations or working with a small group with teachers. However, if your child does require special education services, those services will be delivered in your child's least restrictive environment, many times alongside students without disabilities in a general education setting. To learn more about special education services, visit our website at schools.nyc.gov/special education.
So there's a brief introduction of what is special education. Again, this video is up on the YouTube. You can share it with any family, friends that you might know who might need a brief introduction to what special education is. But in the New York City Department of Education, special education is overseen by the Division of Specialized Instruction and Student Support. We call it DSIS. DSIS works to accelerate the achievements of students with disabilities while ensuring compliance with federal, state, and local laws and regulations. It includes the Special Education Office and District 75. And so this is how the division and the leadership structure is currently laid out. At the top of our organization is Christina Foti, who's Deputy Chief Academic Officer, and followed underneath her by John Hammer, who is the Chief Executive Director of the Special Education Office, Kettler Lewisant, who's Superintendent of District 75, and Shona Gibson, who is the Executive Director of District 75 Citywide Supports. So the way we approach the work from a central office perspective is we have these 4 core value statements. We have commitment, equity, transparency, and urgency. And so when we talk about commitment, the DOE is committed to fully providing special education programs and services to our students with IEPs and ensuring schools have the support and supervision needed to support full compliance. When we talk about equity, we're talking about centering those that have been historically marginalized, and it's crucial for improving student outcomes, including the highest ever graduation rates in college enrollment rates and rising scores on state tests. And while we've seen consistent improvements in our compliance data, we have more to do. Transparency, the DOE will communicate the provision of special education programs and services with transparency and regularity with our stakeholders. And I'll show you a little later how we communicate that data out to folks. And of course, urgency, the DOE will work with urgency to ensure that our students are fully served We will accomplish this through our regular and ongoing monitoring and targeted strategic action in areas that require increased support. So I mentioned that one of the components of how we oversee special education in New York City is the Special Education Office. And so the Special Education Office supports districts 1 through 32 and District 75 schools in meeting the needs of students with individualized education programs. This is what's commonly known as an IEP. The Special Education Office also oversees the 10 regional committees on special education, which coordinate and conduct evaluations for students in preschool, charter, non-public, and state-approved / supported schools. And also develop specialized programs within districts, district schools, which include bilingual special education, ASD Nest, ASD Horizon, ACES, and PATH programs. These are just some examples of specialized programs, but not an exhaustive list at all. Some of you might be more familiar with other programs like AIMS. So this is not the end all be all of specialized programs. So when we're talking about District 75 is responsible for students and staff in 61 school organizations at over 400 sites across New York City. The district provides services to students in a variety of supported environments that includes general education classrooms, special classes located in community school buildings, special classes in specialized school agencies, hospitals, students' homes, and community-based vocational training sites. I'm zooming along through some of this because I think most of you know a lot of this. So some of the things that you'll hear when we're talking about the environments in which we support students are community schools, specialized programs, and District 75. And we talked a little bit about this, but in districts 1 through 32, which we traditionally call community schools, we know that districts 1 through 32 serve most students with IEPs. At community schools, depending on the needs, students with disabilities participate in general education. They participate in special education teacher support services, which many of you may know as SETs. And they also participate in integrated co-teaching. Some of you might know that as ICT, and special classes. And of course, there are students who whose only IEP service they receive are related services. Specialized programs serve some students with autism, intellectual disability, and English language learners who are recommended to receive special education programs and receive in their home or native language. This includes programs like ASD Nest, ASD Horizon, ACES, and bilingual special education. And then District 75 serves students whose least restrictive environment requires supports additional to those offered by community schools. This may include students who have ASD or autism spectrum disorder, significant cognitive delays, significant emotional disabilities, sensory impairments, and or multiple disabilities. District 75 provides educational, vocational, and behavioral supports. So as we're looking at this list, we're looking at different educational environments. So community schools in districts 1 through 32, what we want to focus on is these are the schools where students with IEPs are going to have the maximum exposure to students without IEPs, to their peers without IEPs. And we'll talk a little bit more about why that's important when we talk about the least restrictive environment and our continuum of services. Before we move into that, I said a lot about IEP and you've heard me talk about it. If you've never heard about IEP before, it's an individualized education program. And we've pulled together a short video clip to introduce what that is and what it means. So let's see.
When a child is struggling in the classroom, schools can provide supports in general education settings like adaptations or working in small groups. If your child needs additional supports, they might need an individualized education program, or IEP. To start the process, your child will need...
Oh, let's try it again.
When a child is struggling in the classroom, schools can provide supports in general education settings like adaptations or working in small groups. If your child needs additional supports, they might need an individualized education program, or IEP. To start the process, your child will need an initial referral. You can make an initial referral at any time by sending a request in writing to your child's DOE school. Or if your child does not attend a DOE school, you can reach out to your local Committee on Special Education, commonly known as CSE. Before your child is evaluated, you will be asked to provide your written informed consent. The evaluation process includes a series of assessments designed to determine if your child has a disability. After your child's evaluation, you'll be invited to participate in a meeting as a member of your child's IEP team. The team will also include staff from your child's school or the CSE. Together, you will review the evaluation results and determine whether your child is eligible for special education services. If your child is eligible, the team will work together to develop your child's IEP with information about their goals, interests, strengths, needs, and recommended programs and services. You can also discuss how adaptations, modifications, supplementary aids, or assistive technology can help your child succeed in the classroom. Each year, an IEP meeting will be held to discuss your child's performance and needs. This is called an annual review. You can also ask for an IEP meeting or a reevaluation at any time by writing to your school or the CSE. To learn more about IEPs, visit our website at schools.nyc.gov/special education.
So there are the basics of what is an IEP. Again, this video is also available on our YouTube channel, and it is also available in all 10 DOE languages, so you can share it with folks. So there was a couple of pieces that you heard in the process, and we're going to walk through that process together. First, we're going to talk about how to make a referral. And so the referral must be made in writing. Nowadays, that could be on a piece of paper, it could be an email, whatever is more convenient for you. But the referral must be made in writing and be made by a family member or a DOE school official. So what's important to note there is that a family might not be the person making the initial referral. It could be a teacher who thinks that the child would benefit from an IEP. It could be a school official who believes that the child would benefit from an IEP. They may make the first referral. The referral should include information that describes the concerns about the child's development, learning, or behavior, state that you are requesting a special education evaluation, list any services the child has received or is currently receiving, include the child's full legal name and date of birth, include your name, address, and a telephone number where you can be reached, and state the preferred language if it's not English. We want to make sure that folks are getting all the information they need in the language that they feel most comfortable with. So it's important for us to know when initial referrals are made if your preferred language is not English. So once this initial referral is written up, what do you do with it? Where do you send it? That depends on your child's age. It depends, and it also depends on what type of school they attend. So if it's a preschool student, a preschool age student, the referral should go to the committees on preschool special education. It should be email or fax, and I'll show you how to access that information later on in the presentation through the DOE website. School age students in public schools, which is really DOE schools, and when we say school age, we're talking about children in kindergarten through 12th grade. For those students who attend DOE schools, you should send it to your child's principal or a staff member in the student school. So this could be your child's teacher, it could be a counselor, it could be the assistant principal, but you should, again, email or fax it or give them to them by hand in writing to your child's school. If your child attends a private, religious, charter, non-public school, then the place to reach out to would be the Committee on Special Education. And an email and fax would be great, and I'll show you how to access their contact information. The reason why I don't have them all listed here is because there are 10 different committees for preschool and 10 different committees for special education, and they're geographic based. So they're based off of where you live. So if I live in the area of CSE1, then I'm going to reach out and send it to CSE1 if my child attends a private school or a religious school. If you don't know where to send it and you just need to send it, you can always default to sending it to special education at schools@nyc.gov or to call 311, and those folks will point you in the right direction. So after the referral, the follow-up is a little different based on whether your child is in preschool or if they're a school age student. In preschool age students, they receive a referral packet from the CPSC, which includes a notice that the referral was received, a list of approved evaluation sites, a consent for initial evaluation form, information about the family's rights, and a medical form. For students who are school aged, again, kindergarten through 12th grade, uh, they will be sent a notice of referral letter, which will explain the family's rights, provide the name and telephone number of a DOE employee to call if there are any questions, and it requests a meeting with the school social worker for a social history interview. The interview will be held in the family's preferred language with the help of an interpreter upon request. This is really important. Again, if your preferred language is not English, please let us know so that we can make arrangements to have an interpreter available. For example, tonight we have interpreters in Spanish and Mandarin to help those whose preferred language are Spanish and Mandarin. Schools have access to interpreters as well to help make sure that you understand the process and are navigating it in a language where you feel you are most comfortable in. So part of this process is consent. As part of the process, the family will be asked to sign a consent for initial evaluation form. You'll receive that form in your preferred language. Even if the family made the referral, so even if you reached out and made the referral, the family must still give consent for the process to begin. If a family chooses not to give consent, the student will not be evaluated and the process will not move forward. So it's super important that when you receive this form, consent for initial evaluation, you give consent so the process moves forward. The evaluation process, after you receive the consent, then the evaluation process happens. And after the consent is provided, we as the DOE have 60 calendar days to provide an evaluation. And if your child is found eligible, we have 60 school days to place the student. So both of those 60 days start from when we receive your consent. The placement is a little longer because there's a difference between calendar and school days. So while the calendar days will end in 60 full days, we'll have a little extra days because of for placement because of the school days that are traditionally Monday through Friday. An initial evaluation can consist of things like a psychoeducational assessment, a physical, a social history, observations of the student, and any other assessment needed to explore areas of the suspected disability. Again, when you receive the consent form in your notice, you'll be given the contact information for someone who works the DOE, and they can answer you any questions you may have about what are the types of evaluation that my child is going to need, what do these evaluations entail, and make you feel comfortable and at ease with your child moving forward with those evaluations. After the evaluations are completed, we move into the phase of the IEP meeting. We move into the phase of the IEP meeting. And we talked about that a little bit at the beginning, but the IEP meetings are really the opportunity for DOE officials and families to come together. So when I say DOE officials, that could be a teacher, it could be a social worker, a psychologist, it could be a related service provider. They sit down at a table and talk with parents, family members, advocates, and work together to figure out if a child is eligible for special education services. And if they are, they work together to create the IEP. So families are invited to an IEP meeting after the student's evaluation is completed. At that meeting, the IEP team, of which the family member is a part of, will review the information of the evaluations and other sources to determine if the student is eligible for special education services. If so, the team works together at the IEP meeting to develop the IEP. Someone from the student's IEP team will reach out to discuss how the IEP meeting will be held and to ensure the family has materials needed to participate effectively. For any questions about their child's IEP or to request an IEP meeting, the family may contact the student's special education teacher or related service provider. Translation of documents and interpretation can be provided at the family's request prior to the meeting. Again, just bringing home that a message that it's really important for us to know if your preferred language is not English and if you need translations and documents so that we can arrange that for you all. All right. As part of what happens in the IEP meeting, we talk about what special education services a child will receive. And we talk about things like the educational environment. We talk about things like related services. We talk about things like assistive technologies. And some folks may not know what those things are. So again, because this is a common theme that you're all seeing now. I like videos and I like small animations. We created another video to talk about what are special education services.
One of the things that you and your child's IEP team will determine together is your child's least restrictive environment. Some children thrive in general education classes, while others need the additional supports provided by a special class or a specialized school. General education settings are considered to be more inclusive as they have a mix of students with and without IEPs. Students may participate in classes with a general education teacher or an integrated co-teaching class with both a general education and special education teacher who work together to plan instruction. Students can also receive specially designed or supplemental instruction through special education teacher support services. Special classes and specialized schools for students with IEPs often have fewer students and have additional adults in the classroom. While special classes are held in schools alongside general education classes, specialized schools only serve students with IEPs. It is not uncommon for children to participate in a combination of these environments. For example, a child might need an integrated co-teaching class for math and a general education class for science. In all of these environments, students can also receive related services such as physical, occupational, and speech therapy, as well as counseling and other instructional supports. Your child's supports and services may change in intensity and frequency over time to match their strengths and needs. Whatever the combination of services, the goal is to create the best learning environment for your child. To learn more, visit our website at schools.nyc.gov/special education.
I hope that helped clear up a little bit about what special education services look like. Again, on our YouTube channel in all 10 languages. It's all available there for you all to share. One of the things in the IEP meeting that you might hear about is the least restrictive environment. And so why that's important is because we always say that special education is a set of programs and services, and it's not a place. Special education is not a corner in a building. It's not a basement. It's not somewhere where people are put. It is a set of services and programs that help support students reach their highest potential. So students are required to be in their least restrictive environment, which we commonly call LRE, and you might hear that a lot, that term LRE. This is a special education program or set of services or set of programs that gives students the greatest access to peers who do not have disabilities. Services, programs, and instructions are designed to meet the individual educational needs of students with disabilities. So looking at this graphic on the screen, it's a sliding pyramid, right? And we like to talk about special education programs and services on a spectrum from being less and more restrictive. I want to make sure I say that right. Some settings are less restrictive, some settings are more restrictive. Somewhere on that continuum between less and more restrictive is each individual's child's least restrictive environment. So why is that important? Because if we look at the lower end of general education, we consider this to be less restrictive. And if we go higher to non-publics and non-publics and residential schools, we consider that to be more restrictive. And the spectrum goes up and down, right? A student's least restrictive environment could be anywhere along this spectrum. So just because special class in a specialized school is closer to the more restrictive side, if this is a student's least restrictive environment, that is the right educational environment for them. And so it's important for us to discuss these things because as we get to more restrictive, we see less and less involvement with peers without disabilities. So in a general education setting, we're typically talking about students who only receive related services. So that's, therapeutic services, counseling, speech, OT, PT. We're talking about students who are in integrated co-teaching classes, who are in classrooms that have both children with and without IEPs together. We're talking about students who receive special education teacher support services, which can be in the classroom or outside the classroom in a separate location and are provided by a special education teacher. And then we're talking about, when we talk about special, we're talking about special classes, right? These are special classes that are provided in those community schools. Think back to our districts 1 through 32 schools. These are the reason why these are below specialized schools is because even though they are special classes, and they only serve students with IEPs in those classes, they're located in schools that serve students with and without IEPs. So students still have access to their peers without IEPs. And of course, as the video stated, in specialized schools only serve students with IEPs, and then home and hospital. Related services is down the side, and you'll see that there's different shades. These could be anything from an IEP assigned paraprofessional, supplementary aids and services, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, counseling, all of those things. And related services can be provided in varying amounts of intensity and frequency along all of these environments. And so that's why it's alongside the continuum. So now that I've talked to you all about the basics of special education, how it works, things to know before you go into your IEP meeting, let's talk about what happens when you need help, when you hit up against a wall and you need some additional support. That's what we're here for. That's what we do. And we're going to talk to you about a few different ways of getting support and reaching support to get answers that you need. So the first place that we always tell folks to go to is to talk to their school. The school is your child's school is closest to your child. They know your child best in the DOE, and so we ask that you start with your school, and that means starting with your IEP team. In addition to the parents, the student's IEP team includes at minimum their teacher, related service providers, and may also include a school psychologist or a school social worker. For children attending preschool and a charter school, a private or parochial school, or non-public, you can contact your committees on preschool special education or committee on special education. Again, we'll talk about how to contact those folks. These are the folks who see your children. When we talk about DOE schools and we're talking about teachers, we're talking about related service providers, these are the folks who see your kid on a daily basis, and they know them well. They know what the issues are. They know how your child can be supported. If you need additional support that goes beyond the support that can be given at your school, the next step is to go to a district or central office. So in districts 1 through 32, you can contact the family support coordinator within the superintendent's office. Every district has a family support coordinator. And I'll show you how to access that information of what your child's school's folks are, and how to get the contact information on the DOE website. In District 75, you would contact the superintendent's office, and they also have a family support coordinator who will be able to help you. Of course, if you're reaching out to the district and you need additional support, you can always contact us. If the family's concerns are unable to be resolved at the school district level, it may be escalated to the central special education office. And the way you do that is by emailing us at specialeducation@schools@nyc.gov or by calling 311. I'll share those inboxes later so you can take a screen grab. So when you have concerns and they're not able to be resolved at the school level, at the district level, at the central level, you might say, what do I do next, Jose? Well, there are some options for you. One of those options is, when you find yourself in conflict with your child's school, is mediation. Mediation is confidential and it's a voluntary process that allows people to resolve disputes without a formal due process hearing. An impartial mediator helps each person or group to express their views and positions and understand the other's views and positions. Mediators help parents with school mediators help parents and school representatives discuss the issue and reach an agreement. The mediator's role is not to recommend solutions or take positions on each side. If everyone reaches an agreement, it's considered to be a binding agreement. If you want more information about mediation, we did a session on it back a few months ago back. So I highly recommend taking a look at our YouTube channel on the session on mediation. The other part that I just mentioned earlier is an impartial hearing process. So at an impartial hearing, a hearing officer listens to both sides and decides what, if anything, went wrong and how to fix it. Hearing officers are New York State licensed attorneys. You can request a hearing in writing by mailing a letter or an email that includes your child's full name and the address of where your child lives, your child's ID number. You can find that on a report card, your child's birth date, the name of your school the child attends, the name of and contact information, including email, your description of the problem with as many facts as you know, the solution you want the DOE to provide. And it's a good idea to keep track of all of your communications. So meetings, emails, letters, phone calls with the DOE. I'll show you on the DOE website where you can find more information about impartial hearings and if this is something that you are interested in. So as part of when you file an impartial hearing, DOE staffs contact you to schedule a meeting about the issue in your complaint. And this meeting is called a resolution meeting. This is another way that you can get to a solution without having to go through the full process. This is an opportunity to discuss your complaints and reach an agreement. I know this is complaints, but I like to prefer you to use the word concerns. It seems more real. If you do not reach an agreement or any or all of the issues of your concerns are if you do not reach an agreement for any or all of the concerns, a hearing will be held and the process moves forward. Again, if you want to learn more about resolution meetings, I highly recommend you see our session on mediation and resolution meetings. And of course, there's also the New York State Complaint Process. So if you believe the school district has violated federal or state laws related to education of students with disabilities, you may submit a written complaint to the New York State Education Department. You constantly hear it as NYCED. The New York State Education Department has a sample complaint form, and it may be used to submit their complaint. The use of the form is recommended but not required. Upon receipt of a written complaint by an individual or agency, NYCED must determine if the alleged violations occurred and issue a written decision of its findings. I will show you where the website is to find more information about this process as well. So before we've talked about a lot of things, I've said a lot of things, and now it's time to show you some of those things. I see that folks are raising their hands and just want to let folks know that if they have questions, they should use the Q&A function because we don't have a chat function available tonight. So we're going to talk about the DOE website, and I'm going to show you and navigate you through some things. Let's see. So here is the DOE website, right? It's chock full of information. And the first things that I want to show you is how to find information about your child's school. So at the top, you'll find these buttons. The third button is find a school. When you do that, you have the opportunity to enter an address. This could be your home address. This could be your child's school address. And then you could also add a grade level. You could add a borough, right? So let's say my child attends a school in Brooklyn, but I don't know the address. I do, however, know that my child is in 6th grade, right? I can hit search and I'll scroll down so you can see a little bit. It gives me a lot of options. So if I zoom in, I can kind of try and figure out where my child's school is, right? But I can also do some filters, right? I can filter by grade level, which is here. I can also filter by school types. So my child attends a charter school, a district school, a NYCDOE, a pre-K center, a transfer, or a District 75 school. So if my child attends a District 75 school, I can see the schools that are posted, and then I can see, oh yeah, my child attends PS 372. So I can go over here and I can find, oh, I can find it in here. They're all listed. And when I find it, I can click to go to that school's profile. And in that school profile, I'm going to find the address, the phone number, the fax number, the link to the school's website, which is important because the school's website will have all of the school specific information. But also in that section, if I scroll down, there are these sections about school contact information, superintendent, and district contacts. So when I hit school contact information, I see the principal, I see the parent coordinator, I see the Respect for All liaison, sexual harassment prevention liaisons, and more information. Because it's a District 75 school, I see District 75's and Superintendent Kettler Louisant. I see a phone number for his office. I see the address of his office, and I see the Education Council's president. So this is a great way to figuring out who are my parent leaders in my district, and also the Educational Council's email. There's also additional information about free meals, admissions, building ventilation information, and mental health. So if you don't know how to find your child's school information, Find a School is a great tool. All right, we're going to go back to the main page. An important piece of this website is, if I refresh, you'll see that there's a Google Translate tool here. So this website can be translated to over 30 languages. Whatever you feel more comfortable navigating in, just select your language and the website will automatically shift. Under Learning, there's a Special Education tab. Here in Special Education tab, you're going to find a wealth of resources. I like to talk to point first to family resources. This is going to have information about the Beyond Access series, but most importantly, our family guides. These are documents that are available at CSCs and family welcome centers. Some schools may also have copies of them, but if you don't have access to it, you can absolutely find them at your local family welcome center. There's the guide to preschool special education, to school age special education, transition planning, and then what I love most of all are these ask and shares, which if I open up one of them, they're set aside as elementary, middle, and high school. These are workbooks, and you can print off whatever pages you need, but they're workbooks that allow you to figure out information to prepare for the IEP meeting. So they give you ideas of things that you should ask, things that you should share, and opportunities to take notes. Going back to the main page of special education, the other place that's important to know is this help tool. Under this help tool, we have some resources. So if you want to talk to your child about disability, knowing your rights that we've talked about, getting supports, the impartial hearing process, contacts and resources, a special education glossary in case there are some terms being used that you don't understand, and the committees on special education. We're going to stop in here for a second because here you'll be able to see CPSE and CSE, Committee on Preschool Special Education, Committee on Special Education. And as I mentioned earlier, they're broken up into 10 regions and they serve these different districts. So if you find out what district you live in, you can find out who your chairperson is, who's a psychologist, who the CPSE coordinator is, what their fax information and their physical address is. Back on the help page, if you want to learn more about the impartial hearing process, we have a page dedicated that will talk about it. And the first thing you'll see here is we also talk about mediation. So if you're interested in mediation, you can go to the getting support page and you can scroll to request mediation and there's information and links. All right, so that's the DOE website. The Beyond Access series, which you're all on today, I think is a great resource for all families. We record all of our sessions and we put them up on YouTube. I think at this point we have, Ori, correct me if I'm wrong, we might have like over 40, maybe over 50 videos on that channel.
Around there. Yeah.
All great topics. So I highly encourage you all to check it out. Just search Beyond Access series on YouTube and you'll find us. And of course, Ori always provides the links in our emails. The last thing I want to mention before we go and look at some of questions and answers is the central contacts. So there is a special education hotline, 718-935-2007. Again, 718-935-2007. If you can't remember that, you can always call 311 and they route those calls to us as well. If you don't know who to reach out to, but you have concerns, you can always reach out to special education at schools.nyc.gov. We're already experienced at making sure that those questions get to the right folks. If you have questions specific about special education recovery services, there is an inbox called sirs@schools.nyc.gov. If your child is transitioning from preschool into kindergarten and you have questions about that process, there is a Turning 5 inbox at turning5@schools.nyc.gov. If you have questions specific about your child's related services, you can reach out to related services at schools.nyc.gov. If you have questions about specialized programs, again, those are the ASD Nest, Horizon, bilingual special education, those types of programs. You can reach out to specialized programs at schools.nyc.gov. If you have questions specifically about autism spectrum disorder programs, there's ASD programs at schools.nyc.gov. And if you have questions about District 75, you can reach out to d75info.gov. That is the end of my presentation. That takes us to 5 minutes of questions and answers, and I'm sure that that's not going to be anywhere near enough. I'm wondering, Ori and Kim, if you have been watching the Q&As and have any ones that you want to raise up.
Yes, we have been going through the Q&A, tried to answer as much as we can. I think there are a lot of good questions, but sorry about that. So basically, one parent was asking her son is in 3rd grade and has an IEP and sits in the ICT classroom, started school, does have mild autism and severe to moderate ADHD, but the teachers have said that he should probably be sitting in a smaller classrooms, but they don't have a smaller setting for his grade. So she kind of wants to know, just a question, what are other options that her son might have in her environment if they're not able to accommodate that?
Yeah, I think the first step is always if your school is saying, hey, listen, we want to provide this, but we can't at this moment, then you have to reach out and I would suggest reaching out to your superintendent and saying, here are the services that my child need. Here are the services that are in my child's IEP. The school is saying that this is the best thing. They're also saying they can't provide it. Let's work with the schools and make sure that they can provide it, or find a school that can provide it for my child. I don't know if Kimberly would want to add anything to that.
I would just echo that engaging with the team at the school directly is of utmost importance because that is the team who directly serves your child. And talking and listening and hearing each other out around the services is definitely the first step to engage with that team.
Thanks, Kimberly.
There's a couple questions about related services and what to do if we are unable to find related services.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that you have to focus on is that the schools, district, and central offices are all here to support you all. So that might mean that we might need some additional support that a school might need additional support. Sorry, in finding a provider. There are folks in place. And so if you reach out to the superintendent's office, the district office, or the central office at related services at schools.nyc.gov and say, hey, we need help finding a provider, that can happen. Also, some families might have what is called an RSA, and Kim might have to save me on this because RSA stands for Related Service Authorization, I think. Kim will tell me if I'm wrong. And so basically what that is it's a program for when we can't find a DOE provider for you, the DOE will pay to find an independent provider. And there's a list of independent providers, and we can help you navigate that list to find someone who will work out for you and your child.
There's also just a question very much related on the same topic about if a son has not received speech services since February and possibly January, and there hasn't been any update and there isn't anyone to help them with the speech services, should they recommend going forward with a hearing for mediation?
So if your child is recommended for services and they haven't received them, we need to know about them, right? We need to know about that. So if you haven't reached out to your child's superintendent or the central office, reach out to us. We can work with the superintendent's team to get those services up and running. If we need to help set you up with mediation, we can help support you through that process. If an impartial hearing process is necessary, we can also help you through that process as well. The point is, everyone needs to work together to get those services started and moving. I think we have time for one more question before I do some announcements. Kim, is there any other main topic you're seeing?
So I just, there are definitely some questions around the individual needs of children, which in this forum, I really do not want to speak publicly about children's individual needs. What I do want to remind folks, though, is that you as a parent and family are part of the IEP team, and that the decision around programs and services, that you are part of that decision making. And so really, while the process was outlined for you today by Jose, we want to encourage you to always speak up and share the needs that are important for your child's programs and services. It's so critical that that partnership happens between you and the school level and the folks who are part of the IEP team. We talked about different ways around if something is not going well, or if you needed to consider speaking with someone else, but we have to encourage you to always, 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 always begin with your school, with your child's teacher. Remember that your child's principal is there. There is a question around family coordinators. There are parent coordinators at the school level, school social workers, clinicians at the school, and that these are all resources directly at the school level who interface with their child more regularly than anyone else does. And so that just encouraging you to always remember to start at the school.
Yeah, and it's important, that's super important, Kim, because everything else is built as a ladder of support that starts off from the school, right? So the district office is a ladder of support. The central offices are ladders of supports, but they're all built in to support your child to reach their highest potential, to have a high quality education, and to really make sure that the services that they are entitled to, they receive them. So it was so important for me to be able to provide this as a session in my last session as the Director of Family Empowerment and Communications, because the whole reason behind the Beyond Access series was to empower families and give families knowledge and tools to be able to support their children. And what better way of supporting your children than by knowing what tools and resources are available to you as your child's most powerful advocate. So I wanted to share that information with you all. I want to thank you all. I want to thank every single one of you for everything you've done to make this series successful. This has been one of the most important parts of my job. It's been one of my happiest parts of my job, and one that an achievement that I will always hold dear to my heart. But I'm not going anywhere just yet. Again, I will continue to be hosting the Beyond Access series for a little while longer. But before I go, I want to send a gentle reminder that there is no Beyond Access series next week because it's break. Everyone should enjoy it. Take some time off, take some time to spend with loved ones, enjoy, regroup, refresh, restore yourself so that we can continue moving forward. So until not next week, but the following week, stay safe and we'll talk to you all soon. Have a good evening, everyone.